So today we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to talk about how I pick my swing trades, what I look for, what indicators I look for, and basically how I pick my swing trades. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today, like I said, we're going to change it up a bit. We're going to talk a little bit about my swing trades, some of the indicators that I look for in a stock, and I've got a few pulled up right here, right up front, that I have looked and noticed that they are below the 10 on that RSI2, but I'm going to show you what I actually look for as I also look at the long-term movement of that stock. So if you appreciate this type of content, it'd be much appreciated if you would please hit that like button, as it does help this channel out. So I'm going to go ahead and start right off with this. And the first thing that I look for when I'm looking for a swing trade or any type of trade really is I want to see, is that stock overall moving up, right? I want it to go from left to right, moving up, right? That shows that we have a nice move up on the stock. But do I just look at the 1 hour chart? Do I look at the day chart? Do I look at the week chart or even monthly chart? What interval am I looking at? Now remember, none of this is financial advice. Please do your own research, as I'm only showing you how I select my swing trades. So the first thing that I'm looking for, and we'll use DUK, which is Duke Energy, as this example, and I'll also look at these others that I have pulled up here as well. So the first thing I would want to look at is, does it overall move up and to the right? So the first thing I look at is the yearly chart on a day interval. And I have my MAs turned on, and that's the moving averages. And for the moving averages, and the main one I want to look at for this part of the checklist is that MA200 right here, which is this red line. And I want to see if that red line is moving up and to the right, and do those candles for the most part stay above that MA200. It can dip down below it because there are times where there are events or just a pullback in the price, right? But overall, is it staying up above that MA200? And you can see for DUK, it does on the 1 year. Now, I like to also look at a 5-year chart to see overall if over that long term of 5 years, does it stay above that MA200? And you can see overall, yes, it does. This red line, again, that's the 200-day moving average, and those candles are staying above that MA200 for the most part. So again, that shows me for long term, this one here overall moves up and to the right, whether it's 1 year or 5 years. That's going to help give me a little bit more assurance that even if I pick a bad buy price, overall I should recover. And that's the reason I like to look at a 1 year and a 5 year chart. It just helps to give me that little bit more assurance that if I did buy, say, up here at the top, which I wouldn't, and I'll show you why, but if I did buy up here, overall, eventually, I will be able to recover. And yes, there are times where you may be holding this stock for a little bit, but that's the reason why I look at that long term. Is it moving up and to the right, and does it stay above that MA200? So that's the first thing that I look at, and that's that 1 year and 5 year. Now, since that stock overall stays above that MA200, the next thing I'm looking for, is it the right buy time? So there are two things that I look for on that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my moving average, and I'm going to turn on the Bollinger Band. So first of all, we have the RSI2 turned on. I have the RSI2 and the RSI14. The RSI14 is a pretty standard RSI, but for this, I'm using the RSI2, which is the yellow line. And you can see that it is setting at 4.18. And that's the number next to the RSI2 right over here. When I hover over that, RSI2 is 4.18. So I am looking for that RSI2 to be below 10, and it is. And then the next thing I look at is on the Bollinger Band. Is it below that midpoint on the Bollinger Band? And that blue line here, that's the midpoint. So the current candle is below it. And even better than that, I also would prefer it to be toward the bottom of that Bollinger Band, if not at the bottom. And look, we are at the bottom of that Bollinger Band. So not only do we have the RSI2 at 4.18, which is below 10, we have the Bollinger Band, which is on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band and actually outside of the Bollinger Band, which could mean that it's oversold. Now, what could that mean? Is that I'm hoping to see it turn around and start moving back up. Not guaranteed, of course, but I'm just using my indicators to help me pick the best buy price that I can pick. So for DUK, we are showing that MA200 looks good for those candles are staying above that MA200. We're showing that the candles are on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band and actually outside the bottom of that Bollinger Band. And we're showing that that RSI2 is below 10. So for that point, that could be a good entry point for a swing trade. And that is what I'm basically looking at. So I know that overall this stock wants to move up and to the right because of the 1 year and the 5 year chart shows me that. And then I want to try to buy at a good buy point. And since it is on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band and below the 10 on the RSI2, that could be a good buy point. Now turning off that Bollinger Band and turning back on that moving average, you can see it did actually break down just slightly below that MA200. Now normally I would not want to buy under that MA200, but again, that could be a good buy point because we have seen it drop below it before, like right over here. It dropped down below it and then jumped right back above it and stayed right on top of that MA200. And we can keep moving on back. You can see right here, same thing. Drop down below that MA200 and then pop back up above it. So if history repeats itself, we are below it, then it is very possible that this one could pop right back above that MA200 and start moving back up and staying above that MA200. So buying DUK at this low or even at the close of today of 117.97 might have been a pretty good buy. And that's basically what I do to pick my stocks. If it meets all of those indicators and that criteria, then that is a good possible stock to pick. Now, I will say one last thing that I do check, and that is on the day chart, I will use like a 3-minute chart right here. And what I'm looking for on a 3-minute chart is I want to make sure that these candles look pretty smooth. Okay? I do not want to see a candle here, a candle way up here, and then a candle way down here. It's like all over the place, but it's individual pieces of a candle. And you don't have this nice little smooth move, right? Now, that doesn't count for after hours. All right, see how this after hours looks? That's what I do not want during market hours, okay? I want to see it nice and smooth like over here, not jumpy like this right here. But this gray area here is after hours. So I do not care about the after hours, what it's jumping around, because the volume is low and it's going to do that. I only care to see a nice smooth move through the candles during market hours. And an example of one that's not too smooth, I just went through and I just found this one right here, and you can see how it is, right? See how it's closed right here, and then all of a sudden the next 3 minutes, all of a sudden it's jumped up here. And then the next 3 minutes it jumps here. But after that 3 minutes, the next opening is way down here. And you can see how they're really just like little lines. You don't have smooth candles. So that's what I mean by I look for those smooth candles, because I want to make sure that it is good volume while it's during the market hours. So this is an example of one that I would pass on even if it made all the other criteria. But like I said, this is just how I do it. You have to do your own research, as I am not a financial advisor, and none of this is financial advice. But back to DUK. For this one here, for me, I wouldn't mind buying some shares for DUK at this price, because history shows on this 5-year chart that it's going to go up, and on the 1-year chart that it's going to move on up. So now let's just quickly go through a couple of these other ones here just to give you some other examples. I have one here for Allstate, and you can see that for the 1 year, it's going up a little bit, right? Not a whole lot, but you can see that that MA200 is moving up and to the right. And how about the candles? Are they staying above the MA200? Well, it is riding the MA200. It did dip down below here, but then pop back up, and same here. So overall, for the 1-year chart, it does seem to be staying above that MA200. And how about the 5-year? And here's the 5-year. You can see there's the MA200s, that red line. And this one here is just staying right above it. So this one here doesn't look too bad either. So the next thing we're going to look at, since it does pass the 1-year and 5-year chart, we're going to go back to that 1 year, and we are still on that day interval. And now we're going to zoom in to the today's candle area, and we're going to turn on the Bollinger Band. And here we go. Now we're looking at the Bollinger Band. Is it below the midpoint of that Bollinger Band? Yes, it is. Is it below 10 on the RSI2? Yes, it is. Is that candle at the bottom of that Bollinger Band? No, it's not. So this one here has to be a bit of a decision you have to make. It's really close to that midpoint, and I prefer it to be closer to the bottom of that Bollinger Band before actually getting in. Now, could I miss it? Sure, I could. And anytime that you want, you could always look back in history here and see, how does this stock normally trade? Is it normally staying above that midpoint and just kind of dipping down a little bit? Or is it actually breaking down below it a good bit and then coming through it? And you can see, look at this, definitely coming down below that midpoint and coming down to the bottom of that Bollinger Band. And it does it quite often. So for me, this one here is getting set up possibly for a potential buy on a swing trade. But in my opinion, it's not quite there yet. I would prefer this one to come on down closer to this lower portion of the Bollinger Band, which is at roughly $200. So if this here actually did come down to that $200, that RSI2 is still below that 10, this could be a possible buy. But also make sure that you're looking and paying attention to some of the levels before as well, because you can draw a little line right here and you can see resistance of that line here, a support of that line right here, and then a bit of a resistance again right here, and we're coming over here. And if we're starting to come down close to that 200, it might benefit us to see if it can come down to about 195. So it doesn't hurt to also draw in a resistance or a support line to see if it's close to that Bollinger Band. And if it is close to that bottom of that Bollinger Band, then it might benefit you to see if this is going to come on down, break through the bottom of that Bollinger Band, and possibly get down to this 195, as that might even be a better buy point. Now, I'm not saying that you can't just buy it when it goes down to say 200, and then when it drops to 195, you can dollar cost average in to lower that. That's always an option, and I've done that as well. But I just wanted to show you that it doesn't hurt to throw in a resistance or a support line to help you get a better buy point. So like I said, this one is meeting all the criteria as it is on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band, but it's not quite at the right price for me. So even though it does meet all that criteria that we did point out, I prefer it to get closer to that bottom of that Bollinger Band, and I actually wouldn't mind at all if it didn't drop down to about 195 and then pick up Allstate, in hopes that we can then turn around and start moving this back up as the 5-year chart has shown us that it wants to do. And the last thing before you would make a trade, of course, is make sure on that 3-minute chart, is this a nice smooth candle run or is it choppy all over the place? And there you go. That's pretty smooth, right? Nice smooth. You don't see a line or a candle way up here and then one way down here and it's jumping, $1 or 50 cents every single time. You can see that the open and the close are somewhat really close to each other. So that helps, because I'll be doing a video next time of how to position yourself out of these swing trades and what I use to get out of them. Because this here is how to get in them, but you also need to have a plan of when to know to get out. But I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll do that one as a separate video. But like I said, Allstate is getting close to a potential swing trade, but just not quite there yet for me. HLT, you can see the 1-year chart on the day interval. Candles are staying above that MA200. The 5-year chart, once again, staying above that MA200. So there's check and check. So we'll go back to that 1-year day chart, zoom in on the front portion here. We'll turn off our MAs and we'll turn on our Bollinger Band. And you can see, just like in Allstate, it is on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band, but it is not toward the bottom of that Bollinger Band. So that would have to be a decision that you would have to make. Of course, all these decisions are something that you have to make. Do not follow what I am saying. I'm only showing what I'm doing and how I select them. But if I were to draw a line in here, I could draw one right here, because this looks like this came down and then popped off of it, right? Maybe a type of support line right here. And it's very possible that it was a resistance line right here, right? Coming up, tapping it, and then breaking through, and then coming down, retesting, and confirming that that's a good support line before it popped off. So notice that this is actually slightly above that bottom of that Bollinger Band. So that could give you a potential early buy if that's what you would want to do. So like I said, drawing those support lines or resistance lines can sometimes get you a better buy price, maybe even an earlier buy price, right? Because what if it comes down, tests it, and bounces off of it and starts moving back up, and it doesn't quite get down to the bottom of that Bollinger Band? Now, being at the bottom is not necessarily what I'm always looking for. I just want it to be closer to the bottom. And this line is definitely a whole lot closer than where it's sitting right now. It's definitely at least 3/4 below that midpoint of that bottom half of the Bollinger Band. So for me, that would be a good spot. And the RSI2, of course, is below 10. It's sitting at 2.86. So HLT could be a possible another swing trade. And that's some of the things that you can look for in these. And it's something to also watch if you're looking to try to get into a swing trade. But please definitely do your own charting, your own research, and do not follow what I am doing, and do not assume the price points that I'm calling out is the correct or even a good buy point, as none of this is financial advice. I just kind of wanted to change it up a little bit today. Wanted to show you what I'm also doing, right? Because swing trades are a lot of fun. You're in and out of them. The way that I'm doing mine, I'm not swing trading within a day, right? This would be more like 3 days to several weeks, right? It can be. It just really depends. And like I said, we'll go over how I'm actually getting out of these and what I'm looking at to know where to set my stop price, because I will set stop limits once I'm in a position and it crosses over a certain point. I'll then set a stop limit to capture any gains. Sometimes it's a small gain, and other times it's a pretty nice gain, right? It really just depends on what the market's doing. You always have to remember, you have to trade what the market is giving you, not what you want from the market. If you try to trade what you want, you're going to get yourself in a bad position. Sometimes the market will give you a nice return, and sometimes it'll give you a small return. And other times it might take money from you. It's all part of the game, but you have to make sure that you're not trying to make something happen. Allow the stock to come to you. So if you'd like to know when I get into any swing trades, day trades, or just generally buying a stock in itself, or what I'm doing with my high yield ETFs, come on over, join the Discord, where I do notify all of my Discord members when I make those purchases, where I'm setting my stops, and which stocks that I'm getting into. So that way I am very transparent in what I'm doing in my trading. So you can join the Discord from the link below in the description, and also it will be in the pinned comments, where you can click that link, join my Discord, and get updated when I make those trades, along with getting a copy of my stock tracker spreadsheet for those high yield ETFs. And I will be putting out a spreadsheet for tracking these swing trades, and that's coming soon. So as I stated, I'll do a video of how and what I use to get out of these swing trades, what indicators I'm using. But for now, I think that's going to wrap this one up. So if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button, as it would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.